trying to live like there's no consequences. They tell us how to live right. We get all defensive. That's not the way.
Hello and welcome to Real Talk with Helen. I'm your host, Helen. Thank you for being here today. We're brought to you, as always, by Attorneys Are Us, who will be following me after this show. Their show airs at 1 o'clock p.m. Today we're going to talk about, as we talked about this whole bullying process and bullying in school last week, and, with all the school shootings that have went on, like in Florida, the children had a walkout yesterday and all over the nation to express the need for safety in the schools. And, they have a right to express themselves just as anyone does. But I want to talk about something that kind of ties in with that. It's, negative influences with our children. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. You're welcome to call in. You can call us at 313-868-0342 if you really have some input on this subject. But most of the things that I've seen as being a parent and being a teacher in the past, what I've noticed, some of the negative influence have been the friends of our children. So you have to be involved in your children's lives, and as they're building relationships, that's something that you learn. I didn't know how to be a friend. I had to learn how to be a good friend and learn the type of people that were good friends. And sometimes, we just really think that, if our child's hanging out with someone, that's kind of freeing up some time for us. And, so that's just as long as they're out of our hair, then they can play with whoever. But you really need to know who your children are playing with and who their influences are. So it's important that you meet the parents because those are the people that influence the children. So I need to meet parents. I need to, see what kind of household they run. Everything is important to me, the type of food that they eat, in case your kids might say they don't eat over their friend's house, but that's not always true. So you need to kind of find out those things. Also, TV. That's one of probably the biggest influences, and that comes with even the internet now. So YouTube and things like that. So TV is a big influence on our children. So we're going to talk about that a little later too on the show with Renee on What's Your Thought Thursday. So we'll go in a little depth with that. But I know that even with my son, TV is a very influential. In fact, I had to put a code on the YouTube because I want to be able to supervise. And if you do have a YouTube account or different accounts, Netflix and things like that, it's important that you are watching the history on those accounts so you know what your child is watching because I saw some things that my child was watching that I didn't approve of. He had been watching some pranks and children shipping themselves in boxes to different countries, and I'm like, you never know what your child is thinking when they see these things because their brain is not developed enough to process that kind of information. So I had to have a talk with him and say, well, you're interested in these things. So you can be interested in these things and not want to do them, but I need to explain to you the consequences and what could possibly happen if you attempt something like that. And it is possible that you could be away from me and your dad forever. So I need you to know that. So it's important, like I say, I stress it all the time to have a conversation with your children. Talk to your children about who they're with, their influences, know their influences, their friends, their peers, and everything. Also, of course, video games. So I have my own views about letting your child watch overrated games that are not in their age group. And that's because my son had been playing games, and I kind of was lackadaisy about it. And, he had his own money. And when Christmas and you get gift cards and things like that, it's like just go get whatever you want. What I discovered is that these video games were giving my son nightmares. And it was the mature games, and he was playing Call of Duty and Halo and all of these games that I didn't really know what they were. And just so happened my sister was over, and she happened to be in his room, and she saw one of these games, and it was kind of gory with blood and zombies and people eating people. It just was not something that she knew that I would approve of. So again, I had to have a conversation with him and let him know that, by the time you're old enough where you can process that, you probably won't even want to play that game anymore. So we're going to hold on to it. And, so now I let him play rated appropriate games because he can't process those things and he's not ready for that. So, and that's up to you and your child. I'm not telling you what to do as a parent, but I just believe that if, we want our children to have success in life, we have to do anything and everything to help them accomplish that success. And it was affecting his sleep where he was having nightmares. And so I had to make an executive decision to stop that. Also, extracurriculum activities are something that I would do to combat these things. So, you have all of the stresses of life. When you're a kid, you have, homework, you got peer pressure, you got, you know, you don't get along with some students, and there's conflicts. And so to handle those things, I believe in extracurriculum activities such as football. My son takes part in football. He also takes part in boxing. He also does jujitsu. So I have him in stress reducing activities. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Stress reducing activities. So, and that also helps with his morals and values, helps him, because in jujitsu, he has to bow, he has to ask permission to do things. So it kind of helps ground him, as far as, bowing and things like that. So, it kind of helps you with that confidence as well. So, we're trying to work with him with that, and it seems to be successful. So when something works for me, I try to share it with you all, and give you options and what can help you with your everyday living and everyday life. But yeah, the martial arts is really helping. I think all of these things are helping collectively, but he doesn't do them all at the same time, but different seasons, like he does boxing, spring, and football in spring and summer. So, he has a lot, and that helps with sportsmanship too, because that is a big issue with children, as it is with probably mostly all children. They're very competitive. And it's important, and nothing's wrong with being competitive because that helps you with your drive and that helps you to succeed and to get better. But what the problem with that is when it causes conflict in relationships and you're upset because you didn't win. And nothing's wrong with anger when you're defeated, but then you work on that by trying to get better over time. It's just like a funny thing, my son watches these YouTube videos on video games that he plays so he can get better. And in my opinion, I was like, well, that's kind of like cheating. I said when I used to play Miss Pac-Man, which was a long time ago, it was so cool to get to that next level on my own. And I was just like, we didn't have, the internet, and we didn't have cheat sheets and other players that were pros, and so we just had to just try to get as many dots and get away from the ghost, and eventually we got to the next level, then the next level, and the next level, and wow. So it was a greater achievement, I think, because you didn't get any tips, or you didn't have like a quote unquote cheat sheet. So, I try to teach my son that there's no cheat sheet in life, okay? You're going to have to start from the bottom and work your way up. And you do that by educating yourself and by continuing to try and continuing to motivate yourself and to have the drive to keep going. So, that's just what I want him to learn. And also, I want him to grow to a young man, to a man, and to grow in his relationship with God, because that is important to me and my family. So, introduced my son to prayer at a very young age and gave him prayer as a tool to help him to guide his life. And he knows that he has that. And another thing, I don't know, I'm just giving you advice that I do for myself. But every morning I pray with my son and I hold his hand and I ask God to protect him, because in this day and age with everything that's going on in schools, you have to have a strong armor, and God is the strongest armor that I know. So I use that, and I'm sending him away from me, so it's important that I give him tools, and so I give him prayer, and we pray for all the children, on the school bus and school and everything. So you gotta have a spiritual warfare against the devil, because he is definitely busy out there, and you need to um, do that for your children. It's just so sad, with these, everything that's going on with, the schools, and the children have to get involved in politics and talk about gun laws. And it's like, wow, all they should be doing is learning. And, it's just unfortunate that we have to talk about this, because this is the day and age that we live in. And, children are, challenged every day, and their safety is compromised. And, it's just, it's really a lot of stress on parents as well. So I have been looking for alternatives, and I'm actually meeting with a Christian school tomorrow, to talk about maybe my son attending next year. And it's not that I'm going against the public school or anything, but more than anything, I want my child to have morals and have a relationship with God, and have him a part of his life in every aspect, even learning. Because I notice, and I know what you're thinking, some Christian schools, I mean, they got every school has challenging kids that have issues. But the thing that's different to me is prayer in the school. And I believe that that's when we had problems in the school. We started developing problems when we took prayer out of the school. That's just what I believe. I remember, even like I always say, when we used to pledge allegiance to the flag, it gave us a sense of worth and confidence and pride and morals. We were all around the school doing the same thing across the country at the same time, and we knew that this was the time that we pledged allegiance to the flag, and we sang, our country, liberty, and it's just, we don't do any of those things anymore. And I think that taking that away from the school has caused a lot of problems, because I tell you, some of the conversations that these kids are going through, and I'm just going to keep it real. I mean, my son has told me, I mean, there's children on the bus that watch pornos on the bus. It is bad. And when you try to have good influences around your children, and you got things like this going on, and children shipping themselves to different countries as pranks, and I mean, you don't have a value of life. And the Tide Pod challenges, and children ingesting Tide Pods and seeing what happens, and that's not a God-fearing person, and that's not anyone that has any value for their life. So I have to let my son know that these things, we don't do them. And the reason why, you can't just tell your kids not to do something. You gotta tell them, look, you could die, you could really be seriously hurt, and you could be away from me. So it's important that you know that before you do these things, because it could be the last time you do anything, and you can allow the devil to have his way. And you need to be frank and upfront with your children and let them know, no, do not do that. So that's one of the reasons that I'm considering a Christian school, because it's just, the devil is busy out here. And with and like I said, it's not the school. But I want him to be circled around positive influences and people that are praying for him and with him. That is important to me. And if you have a child that has special needs or things like that, you need to consider other accommodations. Now, my sister is a DPS teacher, and of course, she tells me things, about the school system and what she thinks is unjust and things like that. And one of the major things that we talk about is the special needs children. and how they are forced into the classroom on the same grading scale as the other students, which I think is totally unfair. And also, they are supposed to have a caregiver with them at all times, and lots of times these caregivers do not accompany them, in these classes, and they're subject to bullying and things like that, harassment, because the children are not being educated, and let them know to have empathy for people that have special needs. So this is also something that the state needs to talk about in reference to the public school system, is children with special needs. They need, if you have special needs, then that means you need special accommodations for you. There's different illnesses, from mental health to physical health illnesses, that children have in school, and everyone has a right to an education. So with that being said, we really have to consider what we're going to do with these children and how we can assist them and help them. And they need special accommodations. So that's definitely something to consider. So those are the reasons why I'm considering alternative education for my son, because it's just too many negative influences out here. Like I said, with idle time, that's a big one. I try to keep my son to a schedule. Me and my husband live by a strict schedule, so we want to raise him to know that there's a time for things. So I give him a time to play video games. He is allowed an hour a day after his responsibilities are done. And some people, they don't have that kind of structure, and that's up to you. But I just believe that there's a time for things. There's a time to do your homework. There's a time to eat. There's, a time to play. And, I just, in this day and age when, most of the half of our children are obese, and they have, weight issues. And that has to do a lot with diet and lack of exercise, as we all have that issue. And then, 1/3 of the people in this country have diabetes, or, are pre-diabetic. So, by trying to, be conscious of what we eat at home. That's very important, not to just eat out all the time. Those are considered special occasions, but it's nice, that we have home cooked meals every night. Thank you to my wonderful husband John, who is a master chef, and we we eat very good, but we eat healthy, and we eat all of the food groups, and he's shown me that you can eat healthy and it still be good. So so I'm thankful for that. But it's just important that we try to keep these negative influences away from our children. Idle time is indeed the devil's workshop. So we need to have them something to do, a set agenda. Suggestions I would give you: there's a lot of free programs for children. You have to look, and some of them are in the city, and some of them you have to travel depending on where you live. But if you email me at the Real Talk with Helen at outlook.com, I can give you a list of that depending on where you live. I have a lot of resources for free things that you can do. I know one offhand is Coach Erskine Wade at Norwayne Boxing Gym in Westland, Michigan. And my son attends there. Coach Wade is an Olympic winning boxer who is a great coach and has this nonprofit organization, Norwayne Boxing Gym in Westland, where they help children not only learn how to box, but it gives them confidence. It teaches them how to handle self-defense situations. It teaches them how to be confident and not be a bully. So it promotes anti-bullying. It's a lot of benefits. If your child suffers from things like ADHD or ADD or depression, anxiety, things like that, this will help them as well. So don't always think medical therapy is the only alternative. You can also do physical things to help your child too, depending on the situation. And those things also reduce stress. But what I have, another thing that I've started to do is, and I got with my neighbor. Hi, Miss Yvonne. And we're talking about doing a family night, maybe like every other week. And maybe we can do like games, board games. There's a lot of suggestions I have that we can do to bring back the family environment where it's just not kids playing on video games. You know, I had so much fun the other night. Me and my son played Jenga. I don't know if anybody still plays that game. It's probably a really old game, but it's with the wooden blocks. And I had so much fun, and I mean, we tied each other, and I won one, he won one, then I won one, and then he won one. But it was so fun to just play that game and to interact, and that's something you can play in teams, and your whole family can play. So try to spend more valuable time, with your children and not just always have to incorporate money, because I try to do things with what I have and with the resources I have. And a lot of times in this generation, because we're so materialistic, we think that we have to spend money on everything. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you can have fun at home. Sometimes you can watch a movie together. And if you got Netflix, and thank you T-Mobile for paying for my Netflix. It's on them. So, things like that do not have a large cost, if any. So that's something that you might want to consider. Like I said, I am always on OaklandCountyMoms.com to check out free or less expensive things that they have. I try to do things in the summertime, even with my pets. I have two Italian greyhounds, Mac and Nina. Hello to Mac and Nina. I miss you. Mommy loves you. So I even try to incorporate them in things in the summer, and they have doggy fairs and things like that. I think Huntington Woods has one, and you can bring your pets. And so it's those kind of things are really nice. We even have taken the whole family, even the dogs, on vacation and went up north and things like that. So we try to do things that are inexpensive, day trips. Like I said, we'll get in the car at any given time and go to Chick-fil-A in Lansing, or go up to Birch Run, or go to Frankenmuth, and just spend a couple hours just for the day. Sometimes you don't have a whole weekend, and you don't have the money for that. So you have to kind of plan things to work. I mean, sometimes you can even have an activity of baking. Believe it or not, we can make some cookies. We can, whatever. It might seem kind of corny, but in my house, I get mad cool points for it. So, I'm happy about that. And I try to do anything that I can to make everybody happy, including myself, because self-preservation is the first law of nature. Don't forget that. So you need to make yourself happy. But, so these are very important things that we want to concentrate on to help us reduce our stress. I'm telling you, jujitsu is probably one of the best things that I can think of to help with stress for the parent and for the child, because it's not much. My son goes 4 days a week for 45 minutes, but it's right by my house. So it's, 5 minutes to get him there. I drop him off. I can go shopping. It's right by, the grocery store and everything. I can get my shopping done and just pick him up. That's time for me to go to the, pharmacy if I need something, go, to Ulta Beauty, which I like going there sometimes just to browse. So it gives me time to do me, even if it's just time to, put some clothes in the washer and, you know, do some cleaning and not have to be bothered. So that is how it helps me relieve stress. How it helps him is it teaches him techniques to defend himself. It teaches him discipline. It teaches him morals and respect for others, because he has to, if he's a winner or the loser, it does not matter. He has to bow. And then after that, you go on to the next one. So it's not like you're tallying how many wins you have. You're learning from each other. You're learning ways to help yourself get out of a situation. And you need to know that, especially, in today's situation with the school system. You need to know how to defend yourself. And also, my sister told me about Detroit Public Schools, their procedure and their process. If there's a live school shooter in the building, that they have to stay on lockdown in the school. Now, I don't know if that's just the teachers or the students. I guess the procedure is if there's a shooter, you're supposed to look outside, and if there's any students in the hall, let them in, and just take cover. I'm not sure of the best way to handle this, because if I say the kids should go outside, then the shooter might shoot from the window and start shooting children. I mean, there's no really right answer in this situation. The only thing and the only weapon that I have for you is prayer. And that's just what I use daily. It's the only, weapon that I have against this. I'm not going to give anybody any answers, because that's all I have. And I know that it works for me, and it's, something that I rely on, because I don't know what to do. It's like, every time I get a robocall from the school, my anxiety level goes up, and I stress out, and, I'm frustrated, So I'm like, what do I do? So that's all I got for you guys. We can just pray and ask God to bless the schools, and bless the surrounding, bless the teachers. I pray for the influences around my son, that they be positive, and that he is around God-fearing people, and people that would be positive influences in his life, and that we keep all the negativity away from him. And that's really all I can do, is let go and let God at this point, because it's really, really frustrating. So stay tuned. Next, we'll have Attorneys Are Us at 1 o'clock with attorney Thomas Quartz. And don't forget to watch What's Your Thought Thursday with Renee and Lavish, the celebrity tow truck driver, who I enjoy really having that show with them. It's really cool. That's our Detroit Dish Nation show. I really love it. I'll give you my contact information as well. As always, I know you guys have had a lot of questions for Attorneys R Us, which we'll answer those on the next show. Coming up here in a few minutes. So you can continue to contact me via email at realtalkwithhelen@outlook.com. I thank you for watching. Attorneys Are Us is coming up next, and I thank you for watching. Stay tuned next week. We're here every Thursday at 12:30 to 1, and then follows us is Attorney Are Us. I think I'm forgetting something. It was some shout outs or something I was supposed to give to someone, and I didn't put it in my notes. And every time that happens, Carrie's Caring Services. A friend of mine, hi Delphinice, she has a new company that she started where she provides home care services for those in need of maybe a chore provider, if you need assistance with daily living. If you need assistance with showering and things like that. It's usually about 45 minutes to an hour, her services for the patients. So if you know anyone that has those services, and the good thing about the services that she provides is that she kind of a la cartes it to your specific budget and your needs. So that's good. Most companies aren't flexible like that, because some people can afford to pay for those services, and some people can't. So she kind of works with you on that. So you can also contact me. I should have had her phone number here, and I don't. So you can contact me on my email at any time. Real Talk with Helen at Outlook.com. You can also reach me via phone at 248-805-2000 if you have any questions. Once again, thank you so much for watching Real Talk with Helen, and stay tuned for Attorneys R Us. We'll be with you shortly. Thank you, and have a great day.
Why we trying to live like there's no consequences. They tell us how to live right. We get all defensive.